some of you have come out to site, which is terrific. So Jozef will lead, I think, most of today's discussion, given that he's just completed with the resource geologist the work around the JORC resource, which is terrific. But we're also joined too by Josh Baker of RAS Research. Josh has been out to site a number of times now, which is terrific. And I thought having Josh here would be a really good way to ask Jozef and the team the required questions when it comes to the JORC resource. I'll just make a few introductory comments and then hand it over to Jozef, and then we will have the Q&A. I think for the Q&A, people should at any time feel free to type questions into the chat function so that we can answer those questions either as they come up or at the end. So we'll just see how we go. All right. And we are recording today's webinar, or we intend to, just so that we've got a good record of it, and we'll be able to have the discussion we'll be able to load it up onto the website. So those who can't be here today can also review our discussion and the JORC increase overall. So we've certainly updated all our disclosures for the recent revision in the JORC, which is great, including the exploration target estimates, which have also been revised. A quick reminder from myself about where we're positioned here at Aureka. So you will know that we're situated in Western and Central Victoria, a series of high-grade gold projects, including the flagship Irvine Project, which we commenced drilling on in January last year. And then since that time, we have drilled it every day of the week, which is great. So we're really focused at Aureka on taking these projects to that next stage, and I think having our own JORC resource around the Irvine Project is really one key aspect of that, which is terrific. And now we're up to over 450,000 ounces of overall JORC resource. Remember, it's 100% inferred at this stage, but we do have an infill program underway up at the St Arnaud Comstock Gold and Silver Project, which we hope can deliver us some results, so we can also upgrade that resource in due course. So we're focused on the Irvine Project with that 398,000 JORC resource at the moment. Remember, our two real focus projects are the Irvine Project, but also Comstock Project. There's other targets within the portfolio that we look forward to drilling in due course, but the news that we announced last week was really around the JORC resource size at Irvine, and it's a terrific achievement there. And we hope to bring the market and our shareholders updates very soon in relation to Comstock and how we're positioning that project to be our first early production candidate. Remember, we've got no debt, cash. At the end of the last quarter, we had $3.7 million in cash, which is terrific. We've got the drill rigs running today. We don't have any debt or anything like that. We're well backed well supported by an excellent board of directors led by Graham, Angela, Richard, and we're really trying to get in behind Jozef and the rest of the geology team to help them deliver the sort of outcomes that we delivered with the Tenacity discovery last year, but also with the overall size and overall increase in the JORC resource. And we do have that strategy of continuous drilling, which is really paying off at the moment. So I think this is the first major step. Remember, in June last year, we put the JORC resource around the Comstock Project, 56,000 ounces at 1.21 grams per tonne. Subsequently, we drilled around that project, but now, just last week, we delivered our second increase in the JORC resource. So it's great to have a 50% increase in overall JORC resources within the company since we started operations in January last year. I'll go on to the next slide, but Jozef, you want to take it from here and run people through where we're at from a geological point of view, and the upgrade to the JORC resource.
No worries. Thanks, James. For anyone that was at the AIG last week in Ballarat, this might be a little bit repetitious, so apologies for that. But it's a good opportunity to sort of get a second run at this and let a greater audience know about the resource update. But anyway, this current slide's just an overview of our portfolio. So it's just sort of how we rank the projects from identified through to at the current stage inferred. We'd like to then push up the triangle. So our goal is to move these projects up to the next category, that being indicated resources for some of our already inferred resources. So that's our ultimate game. But just give you a quick rundown of the projects. I mean, the drilling, as James touched on, we've got 2 drill rigs going. One at our flagship at Irvine, as we've continued to have going since I joined the company and previous to me joining. So it's essentially been drilling 18 months at continuous drilling at Irvine. And then obviously we've had the intermittent drilling at St Arnaud, which we're back doing now on the Walker's Lode. Thanks, James.
Okay.
All right, so just we went to then. Okay, so we're just zooming into the Stawell corridor. So for those who've been out to site, and I've noticed there's a couple of you on the call that have actually been out to site. So this is just some familiarity to you. So this is a zoom of the Stawell corridor and the Irvine project in particular. As you can see, we've got a pretty large portfolio that covers 70 kilometres south of the Stawell gold mine. We're immediately the other side of the Stawell granite, so really good position geologically wise, and 5.5 million ounces. We're just along strike of that, so it's really good real estate that we occupy here. Just a long section. So this is just looking a long section. So you got Magdala to the northwest on the right-hand side of the screen. That's the 5.5 million ounces that we're talking about. Where we've recently updated our JORC resources by nearly 36% was at the Irvine Project. So we've now got 398,000 ounces in inferred and plus 500,000 ounces in exploration target there. So that's really exciting for us. And you can see what I'm talking about. It's very close to the Stawell granite. It's in a really good neighbourhood. We've identified some other basalt sediment contacts further along the corridor as we move southeast. Like they're favourable rheological contrasts, which we believe are hosts, favourable hosts for further mineralisation and further discoveries. All right, just jumping in into just some key achievements. So we just wanted to sort of highlight the key achievements on the project today. It's at the Stawell corridor. So we've drilled nearly 5,000 metres of diamond drilling since January 2025, and that's from a single rig working Monday to Friday. We know the constraints there of working in Victoria near residential properties. We're pretty limited on 24-hour drilling in the fact that we can't do it. So, to achieve those meters of drilling and effective drilling, that's enabled us to update that resource by 36% at resolution is pretty good, a pretty remarkable achievement from the team actually. So, I'll thank the team later on, but it just reiterates, if you're not drilling, then it's hard to grow these projects, and that's something that we've been very cognizant of. So in order to do that, we focused on geology as well. So the team's really starting to understand the geology, and you can see this photo of the core. There's some pretty complicated looking stuff down to the bottom, and even at the top where it's quite sheared and faulted. So the team have done really good at a good job of pulling that together, projecting some of the structures. And what we also did is we created a bunch of new domains based on a more robust geological model, and that's essentially enabled us to better understand the geology, better calculate a more feasible and realistic mineral resource, and of course adding in those additional significant mineralized zones like the tenacity and the mineralization around it. That's been extremely beneficial. The other thing we've done, it's a key achievement, is in the background we've been working on property acquisition. So what that enables us to do is integrate into the community. It gives us more flexibility on where we can put the drill rig. Just by being out there all the time, like we're in the process of moving the core shed out into the project area as well, and just being sort of in amongst the community, they're starting to know who we are, who the geologists are. See us on the road now, they give a bit of a wave, they know who we are. So that immersion into the local community has been really positive as well. All right, so we just jump into a zoomed long section of the resolution where the resource addition has occurred. We've actually added 94,000 ounces of gold resources to the Irvine project. Now, this has been through exploring in the exploration corridor, in the exploration target area that we had previously identified. It's showing step continuity, but it's also identifying new targets. So, this identification of new targets is going to enable us to keep growing the resource. So we're not just going to go, okay, 94,000 ounces, we're done now. That's a really good addition. We just see that as the first step to continual growth that we want to do. And and like I said, that was the key driver, is that strong technical understanding and development that we've actually been able to apply to the project. And the geologists aren't agnostic, so as they get more information, they like to refine and continue to grow and develop the understanding. So if we see something that's not quite making sense, we scrap that, go back to a more simplified version, or if it becomes more complicated, we run through the more complicated thing. But again, it's continual diamond drilling that's enabled us to do that. We also were able to identify that tenacity mineralization. That was great. Seeing convergent fault margins, a zone where there was really enriched gold grades, like that previous slide with the high grade visible gold. The guys that the people that have been out on site, they would have seen that core, or if you've seen us at one of the booths at the conference, James likes to carry that in his pocket. So I had to arm wrestle it off him a bit to get it back in the core trays, but it's a nice showpiece piece of core with nice specks of visible gold. But like I said, there's more than just that. There's a sulfide content below, and that's the thing that's driving us. So back to that slide. So this sulfide component below. The exciting thing is we're not just going on the 183 grams per ton to drive our resource. We're seeing a nice disseminated mineralized zone with grades of 7 and 8 grams per ton down it, and up to 23 grams per ton in there as well. But exciting for me is those last two meters of the interval are basically 7.5 and nearly 7 grams per ton in a disseminated fine acicular arsenopyrite, which is common across Victorian goldfields, and it's kind of what's driven Stawell gold mine for the last, since 1986, when they've been, in modern production. So, this is really exciting to us that we can see analogues of Stawell. All right, next one. So this is what I was talking about, the domaining. So the geologists went through and they picked out some key structures, key geological features, and what they've done, by doing that, it enables them to create these geological domains, and then we apply that to the model and the variograms, and that's a more robust way of building the mineral resource. Previously, it was just on one sort of structure, that the resolution structure, and it was sort of very simplified. When I first looked at the core, I thought, well, this is very complicated, and I'm not seeing it reflected in any model that we're seeing in the guys put together in the core shed. So I challenged them. I said, let's go back and revisit the geology. And part of the reasoning was, I've been lucky enough to work with companies in the past, like Barrick, the no longer CEO, but the then CEO was a geologist, Mark Bristow, working for Eldorado Gold. Again, CEO was a geologist, and there was full support on applying geology, understanding the geology, and they understood that without having that geological understanding of your ore bodies, you're never going to be able to find more or extend the ore bodies that you have. So, I've instilled that with the team, that we must keep growing that geology. We must keep developing and not sitting still on it. It's an organic thing, and it continues to be dynamic, and as we get more information, we'll continue to grow it. But the key takeaway was those 11 domains, and that's been able to really contribute to the additional nearly 100,000 ounces, which is fantastic. So just a quick one. This is just sort of like I was talking about. You can see we're starting to get the more complicated cross sections compared to what we had, but it's also a schematic long section, just showing some of those nice hits. A lot of you, if you followed the following us, which I'm sure you all are, you would have seen these long sections before. You would have seen our significant mineralized hits before. So it's just demonstrating that we've got growth. And obviously, as we continue to look at resolution, because this is what's on the screen. You will see on the left hand side there, there's a shaded red area with exploration target. We've identified that there's some legacy drilling in the area that ineffectively drill tested that the up dip extensions of what we know now is the resolution. So we've got plans to get back in there and try and grow the resource further up dip. We just see it's a key area. We know that it's got the capacity to generate some really high numbers for us and rapidly grow. So, it's an area that we'll keep coming back to as time permits. But with one drill rig, 5 days a week, we can't drill everywhere at once. But it's definitely on our radar. While we did the resource update, as you would have seen, we put out a release a few weeks ago just saying that we'd completed the drone mag survey. We did a tight space 50-meter drone-based magnetic survey, and that's been fantastic in enabling us to identify second-order structures and understand that there's more structural complexity in the immediate area, and it's pointing us towards key areas. We're looking at magnetic or demagnetized zones. We're looking at combining the IP, and we've also engaged Dr. Barry Murphy. Now, some of you may have heard of Barry. He was sort of integral in the development of some skill sets that went on to discover the Bankan Gold Project in Guinea in West Africa. I had a chat to him yesterday. He's got all of our data. He started to work his magic with our data as well. He's got these techniques that he puts through, and it really is. Like, you think the image on the screen now is complicated. With the initial, there's a bit of a scoop for you guys. At the initial work we're seeing is really nice. It's showing up a lot more detail than we'd anticipated. So it's really something that I wanted to see, and it's really it's going to be really impressive once he pulls that 3D geological model together, and I think it'll generate a few more targets. Just on the long section on the right hand side, you can see there's a big area in the gap that we're still working on. Some nice areas around resolution as well that we'd like to get to. Adventure that we'd like to get to. We want to revisit the geology there, pull together that structural understanding like we did at resolution. But yeah, we have identified some key areas that we'd like to continue exploring immediately along strike of the two known resources.
And these holes are all square, right? Because we haven't done any of our own drilling yet around
Nothing of it.
Adventure.
That's right. So this is all legacy drilling. We've got limited diamond drilling in here. There's only about 10 to 14 holes of diamond drilling where we can get some structural information, but ultimately we see a lot of, like, if you look at the analog, I think it's likely to be dipping to the southeast, or sorry, plunging to the southeast, a little like resolution there to the left of the screen. You can see the red, my red area that I've hashed in there at Adventure is sort of looking at those down plunge to the south areas where there's gaps in data. So, it's exciting. We realize that it's an area that we need to get to, and we will, with time, follow that up. Quick snapshot of the drill rig. I think this one just demonstrates how we're right in amongst the community here with our drilling, and we're managing to operate 5 days a week. No complaints from nearby neighbours, and you can see there's a house just in the background. That's only a couple of 100 meters away, and we're operating during daylight hours. We're continually monitoring the noise, and we're well below EPA standard. And you can see the vines. We're tucked right in tight against the vines. This one was between the road and the vines. We made use of the limited space we have, but the rig's drilling here now, and we're looking at step change extensions to the resolution north.
So we're in this picture. We're 900 meters, aren't we? We're up is it this ET,
Yeah, it's
ETT or
up
ET?
around that area, James. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
about a kilometre along strike of the resolution load.
See, when you look at that, the long section where,
Yeah,
yeah, further
we're
in.
off the long section, so
Yeah.
yeah. All right, jumping into Sonanad. So this is just the zoom of the Sonanad project. Again, it's a large portfolio. You can see the pale blue on the in the image to the right. That's Murray Basin sediment. So there's a lot of cover in our area. Because it's limited to information that's available without drilling, we've focused on the areas where there's outcrop and known mineralization. So a lot of our work has been based around the Comstock. For those who have been on a site visit, it's the old open pit that's just out of Sonanad Township, about a kilometre out of Sonanad. Yeah, we had some successful drilling completed in 2025. We drilled just over 2,500 or just under 2,500 meters of drilling. We six of the seven holes we drilled. We intersected significant mineralization of some kind. Our main focus is on the Nelson Line. We've got two other key areas in the New Chum and New Bendigo. New Bendigo was the second most prolific gold field in the area, but the bulk of the mineralization, what the 400,000 ounces came from, was from the Lord Nelson mine, which Sonanad is built around. But where the Comstock is on that same trend, so it's a reef trend that extends to the northwest of the township. So, that's our key area that we're focusing on, and we're looking at doing some concept studies at the moment, and just looking at if there's a viable option to near-term production. So just on the next slide, James. Yeah, so this is just a zoom in of the Comstock pit area, and like I said, it was 2,200 holes, so just under 2,500 meters last year that we drilled. Some really stellar numbers, particularly the silver started to come in at depth as well. We're seeing up to 650 grams per ton silver. Had some visible gold in the hits, which is great. Like I said, the concept study showed an area in Comstock pit down in the south, and it was what we called the Walker Shear. It wasn't something that we had really considered up until we had done that review of the project and study, and we identified that as mineralization was sitting very, very close to the pit floor. So we had a quick look at it, and we think there's a real chance that for near surface mineralization that potentially could be exploited for with a small scale underground mine. And we're running through those concept studies now and just looking to see if it's a viable option. The drill rig consequently has moved into that pit, and we're drilling some reaffirmation drilling. So we want to reaffirm if the reef is continuing. So the rig is sitting just on that right-hand picture, about halfway down the ramp there. Yeah, it's a little bit further across on towards the pit wall. Yeah, so we've got the rig sitting somewhere around there, and it's drilling back underneath the red line and underneath the Walker shear. shear. All indications from the core. We haven't got any assays yet, but we're intersecting reef continuity where we had anticipated intersecting that. Obviously, we need to do the assays and just double check against some of the legacy data. And if we are demonstrating that we can repeat some of those high grade assays and then infill those high grade assays, we'll then be maybe in a position where we can convert a portion of the inferred resource into the next category. So that's what we're kind of aiming to do with our Sonanad and Comstock gold silver project.
And these are the historical holes, aren't they, that we're currently replicating because they were drilled in the late 80s and early 90s. So it's prudent for us to follow those up and do it hopefully in a greater confidence level.
That's right, and we'll kill two birds with the one stone on that too, James, because we'll be collecting sample that we can run some met studies on, and look at how amenable it is to put that ore potentially through one of the proximal mills that we've got a good relationship in the area. We know there's multiple mills in Victoria, and we've been as a team we've been talking to all those mill operators. So we just need to do that met study and understand which facility would be amenable to processing that all. Just a quick recap on some photos of that were previous released. You can see the high grade silver and gold anomalies there. So we had silver associated with some galena, and not too dissimilar to what's in the top right photo. Obviously, the visible gold is a key component too, which is driving some of the nice high 109 grams and 31 grams per ton in the gold. And just on this sorry, Joe, just on that long section, you can see a lot of the drilling we've done is outside, well below the pit perimeters, and it's just demonstrating that this is a very fertile system with continuity at depth. We know that the Lord Nelson mine wasn't an expansive mine by any stretch, but it was low tonnage, high grade, and that's what we're dealing with here, and that's what we're looking to see an opportunity for.
Yeah, so when you compare it to that JORC resource, a 1.21 grams, I mean, that's global and it's all around the Comstock pit there. But obviously we're focusing in, aren't we, on these higher numbers, maybe a little bit more consistent with the 14 grams per ton they mined at the Lord Nelson mine back closer to town.
Yeah, and yeah, with the Lord Nelson mine, it was a very deep mine for the time. It was over 700 meters deep, 750 odd meters deep, at an average grade of 14, 15 grams per ton. So, deep mine, according to the literature, is quite steeply plunging ore chutes. So it's all very all very in line with what we're seeing in the pit when we go and look at the data. Yeah,
Right.
so this is Did you want to comment, James, on the global resource or?
No, just to only point out, we've gone, that's resolution just itself, 264 now up to 358. When we include the adventure load to the south and east, we're at 398 on the flagship project, which you can see here on the third last line in the global table. And then we add the 56,000 ounces for Comstock. Obviously, that number hasn't been revisited since we put the maiden JORC resource on it. I think it was June last year, or May or June last year. And then subsequently, we drilled those 7 or 8 holes. And obviously, we're drilling around Comstock again right now so that we can shore up some near-term potential small-scale production. So I'll get ready to hand over to Josh. But remember, the size of the prize is huge at Aureka, given we're down the road from the Stawell gold mine. But also, we're a very practical team, and we're also focused on a small scale project that we can certainly do with the resources that we can bring to bear within the company around the Comstock pit that you can see on the screen on the left-hand side at the moment. So a bit of a integrated asset strategy taking shape. As Joseph said, we're in discussion with the mills. As we announced in December, we're working very closely with the guys at Core Prospecting and that Wedderburn mill, given that it's 45 kilometres away. We're really moving ahead. And as was discussed in Ballarat last week, it's really pleasing to see the mining department and the government approve a number of our projects recently and really present to the industry last week that they want things to progress quite a lot in Victoria. And we look forward to being a big part of that. But Josh, you want to take yourself off mute and got any questions from the audience or yourself that we can discuss?
Yeah, thanks, James and Joseph. So I've got some questions that I can kick off with, but if anyone in the audience has any, put them in the chat and I'll work them into the list as we go. But I think one question that's sort of come about around the commentary of the improved structural understanding, given the resource is still all classified as inferred, with the way you've domained it, the improved knowledge, is there a way you can sort of express how you've got a greater confidence in the metal content compared to what was considered under the previous model? Because I guess a reinterpretation is not necessarily related to the growth in ounces, but also reconfirming your confidence in what you inherited to begin with.
Yeah, so that domaining we didn't know what the final outcome would be, whether we'd see a decrease in tons, because a lot of the time when you start to constrain some of your resource to geological domains, if it was applied a big broad stroke sort of, this is the structure, it's all on one structure type of approach, then you quite often you'll get a decrease in tons or even a decrease in grade. So by enabling us to add more drill holes into the actual resource, but constraining it to the geology, it's actually worked in our favour. Just naturally, we've demonstrated that the metal tonnage, like in these individual domains, you can see there's 11 of them, and not all the gold is. There's some that have got more contained metal than others, and obviously we'll continue to refine this. But yeah, it's been great in that it gives us more confidence that this is more realistic and it's something that's more achievable, and it's identified key areas where we'd like to expand upon. Obviously, around the tenacity where we had the best hit project to date, we want to continue to follow that up dip. We want to show also along strike any continuity there, and these are things we just haven't got back to doing yet. So we're working on that in the background to gain access and move the drill rig. So yeah.
Okay. And I noticed in that domaining, you've got a lot of smaller sections, particularly some of those high-grade visible domains. And I was pointing that out and then talking about the variography part of the study you put out that showed in the main resolution vein and the tenacity vein, there was a low nugget effect. So I guess how does adequate domaining then improve your ability to understand the resource, and then I guess having a low nugget effect, how does that tie into potential, I guess, future economic considerations as well? Because nuggety gold can sometimes be a blessing or a curse
Yeah.
if it's not considered properly.
Yeah. So with the domaining, I mean, you don't want to apply the same rules to each area. If you're seeing an area where there's no visible gold, you don't want to apply the same variograms and the same rules, if you like, to an area where you are seeing like a lot of visible gold. So it's just by domaining it, you get to actually constrain and give yourself a realistic number. Like, if you're seeing no visible gold and it's just 4 to 10 grams per ton in disseminated sulfides, applying something where you're getting 180 grams per ton, like it's not apples and apples. Then you're sort of biasing your model. So we've tried to sort of, as we sample the core, even now that James got this image up, the way we sampled this core was very selective, and we made sure that we weren't smearing that 183 grams per ton throughout the remainder of the intercept. So we saw that there was a lot of gold in the first part of the quartz vein. So we separated that part of the quartz vein out as its own individual sample. You can see that long 1.3 meter quartz vein at the top of the interval. If we had sampled that as one, you'd all of a sudden you'd say, okay, we've got a 1.3, and if some of that gold gets in and it runs at over 100 grams, you're saying it's 180 grams over that 1.3, but realistically, it's confined to that small 0.3 interval that we sampled, and then we did another sample that was running at around 4 grams, and then we did another sample that was running at 64 grams. So we've actually made it a realistic and not biasing our sample. I mean, it's the similar thing when you're domaining. You don't want to bias your domaining by incorporating something that's not realistic into the model.
Yeah. I think the word us investors or analysts use is smearing, but it looks like you've structured your domains to avoid that effect and potentially not.
Yeah, and obviously, as we get more information, as the drill bit provides us with some more hits, then that's going to alter those domains again. So these aren't locked in any stretch. It's the best we've got with the data we've got at the moment, and just that dynamic nature of an ore body. You're going to improve your knowledge, especially where it's still at the relatively early stages at the inferred zone, and as we drill more and infill, and you're going to see changes in the grade, changes in the tonnage. So that's a natural life cycle of the mineral resource estimation process.
Yeah. And in terms of the growth, where you've added another 94,000 ounces, you had only 5 kilometres of drilling to achieve that. based on what I understand, numbers for diamond drilling, it implies a relatively modest discovery cost. And I guess in Victoria, there's always a perception that things are a lot more expensive and slower. So maybe on the cost side, what enables you to still have a very competitive discovery cost per ounce?
Well, we understand who we are. Aureka aren't a billion-dollar market cap company, so we like to use contractors of the similar ilk. So we're using a single rig operator contract for our Irvine project, and we're using another small scale driller with only a couple of rigs based out of Bendigo. So they're local drillers. We're not using the companies that say Agnico might use. So our cost per meter is lower because we're using a smaller niche drill rig. But we're also focusing on areas. I mean, the exploration target is where the majority of the resource update has occurred. So we drilled in an exploration target that we had identified as potentially a fertile extension. Getting successful drill hits always helps, because you got meters that you can tangibly add to the resource. Obviously, as we do some of the more step change exploration, you probably won't continue to get those hits. But it's that combination of drilling where our most prospective area, where we interpret to be our most prospective area, and that's delivered prospective results for us. And like I said, keeping costs down by using contractors that are aligned with our same thought process.
Yeah. And then probably just moving to the time side, I guess that's where Victoria is also well known, having longer time frames to conduct exploration. I guess what strategies have you sort of put in place? And I guess I'll emphasize those land ownership or land option deals you've put in place and how that can improve your exploration near term, and then obviously by acquiring land, how that potentially reduces your hurdles for any future development scenarios as well.
Yeah, I mean that's helped. Like I said when during the presentation, it's integrated this into the community. So by doing that, we've been able to sign a few more agreements and open up more target areas to drill. So that's really something that we focus on. So once you've got that agreement with the landowner, it's just a process of 7 days notice that you give the government. We're lucky in that we don't have native title or other like heritage listings for European heritage as well. So we're able to drill our areas. Some of our areas we just notified Parks Victoria to get approval. So we're in the Long Gully Reserve, and Comstock is an old mine and it's controlled by Parks Vic as well. So it's just the simple process of putting in the application, the S44, which is a document you submit if you want to drill, and then a 7-day notice period. So to give you a good example, when we did the Comstock drilling, we put in the S44. It's 28-day approval from the government. So they left it to the 28th day. Excuse me. We'd already anticipated that we were going to get the drilling, so we put in a notice that we wanted to commence drilling 7 days after approval. So we had that already lodged. So when the 28th day kicked in, our 7-day notice period straight away started. I'd already spoken to a drill rig operator saying, look, we want to start drilling potentially as early as this date. So we got the approval and the 7-day notice all on a Friday. That was all green lighted on a Friday. On Saturday, the drill rig mobilized the site. On Monday, we had drill core out of the ground. So, if you plan correctly, you can really minimize the lag time on some of these delays that you can have. So it's about having the team really think forward and having your ducks all lined up. But so far, so good. We've been pretty lucky with being able to drill. I mean, 18 months of continuous drilling at Irvine. We've been able to start at Comstock as we saw fit. So, yeah.
Yeah. So to me, that sort of sounds like that obviously the permitting regime is actually a lot faster than people generally appreciate. And then with your time in the community, increasing your land access agreements on top of the land that you have acquired or have options over to acquire, it sounds like you have the ability to increase the productivity of your drilling as well.
Yeah, and that's on permitted ground. If you're looking for new ground that you want to pick up with, there's a tenement approval process that you have to go through. So, that's for everyone. Everyone's in the same boat there. And then obviously, if we're looking at small scale production, there's a permitting process that you go through there. And again, it's about having researched what you need to put into the applications, and you make sure that you're following all the guidelines. We're also building a relationship with the government. Like last week when we were at AIG, we made a point of talking to all the government officials and just getting up to speed with any changes that might be coming, and what we can do to be prepared.
Yep. And probably moving on, considering more of the forward exploration plan, you're already at North Resolution. It was quite interesting getting up there on the site trip a few weeks ago, and that drill rig is really quiet. Was standing at the fence, and you don't even need earplugs or anything. It's quite interesting from my perspective.
I mean, that is a quiet rig. That rig was originally designed to drill just on the edge of town in Ballarat. Then it sat idle for several years, I think. And Phil Triggs, a Trimac drilling owner, he saw an opportunity to purchase that rig, and continued to keep it as quiet as he can. He's continuing to make modifications to the mufflers and the noisier components of the rig. But as you would have seen, Josh, there's a lot of sound barring up on the edges. So it is possible, and that's one of the things that's enabled us. We haven't had to shut the rig down because we've violated noise or anything like that. We're very, very aware of that, and it's something those types of delays we don't want, and we make sure we're well ahead of the curve on preventing them.
Yeah. And just on North Resolution, can you sort of run through the scale of the exploration program you're doing there, number of holes, meters, I guess the spatial area that you're trying to test, and I guess the timeline for potential assays and news flow from that part of the program?
Yeah, so this was what we're calling the step change drill sites, like where we're stepping away from the immediate strike potential. We're stepping outside of the legacy exploration target. We've done some work. We've identified our own areas of interest that we think may be our and these are greenfields, untested targets. So there's, in my career, there's a lot of technical successes where you drill and you find the reasons for your anomalies. But in this case, we've got legacy air core anomalies. So there was anomalous gold in the air core, where we're seeing a similar favorable demagnetization and some legacy induced polarization data that has a similar response, in that it's a moderate chargeability, moderate resistivity over this key area here. No drill holes in it, so this is all fresh sort of drilling. So we're there's a possibility that it may just become a technical success, but we're hoping, based on what we see with the geochemistry, so we know that there's fertility there, and our targeting is just to test what's causing those chargeability highs and those resistivity highs and that demagnetization. Is it another continuity or an offset or a some kind of analog to resolution? So timeframes, well, a lot depends on lab. Once we finish the drilling, we're averaging around 22 meters a day at the moment in this area. Had some delays with rig moves and things like that, but once we've set up, it's probably going to get back up to that 25 meters a shift. And then the lab, I've spoken to the lab, last week, where we took the opportunity to talk to the lab owners, and we're seeing probably around a 3-week turnaround time on our submission to getting results. So, we'll finish this hole in probably another 2 weeks, and then we're looking at another. So it's probably a month and a half or so. We'll start to see assay results starting to come through. Obviously, like I said, it's a greenfields area, so there's no promises that any of these are going to deliver gold, but it has the chance. If we can demonstrate there's continuity here, this is really step change on away from. It's almost like a new discovery, if you like, and that's what has the potential to deliver.
Yeah. And just from that targeting perspective, the geochem shown fertility, would it be fair to say that the DMAG represents some sort of basalt dome structure, and then the resistivity and the IP is probably indicating sulfides? Because I guess that sulfide association seems to be quite common where there is gold mineralization, such as resolution and adventure
Yeah.
lode.
The IP, the chargeability would indicate that there's that would be the sulfide, because it actually charges up and then it's slow to dissipate on the charge. So that would be the result for the chargeability high. The resistivity would be the rheological contrast. So the more resistive rocks, like you said, the basalt interacting with the sediment, so that could give you that resistive nature to the rocks. So yeah,
Okay.
it looks like it's a rheological contrast that's similar to what we see at Adventure and Resolution. So yeah, there's a key things that we'd be looking for as just one of the tick boxes for when we do our target ranking.
Yeah. And then for exploration targets 3 through 6, are they similar geochemical and geophysical footprints being considered
We
as
don't
well?
have a lot of geochemistry over the area. We're building that data set as we speak, with the team is going out and doing a more regional. So what we wanted to have is there is some legacy data, but it's not multi-element so it's difficult to look at pathfinders from a limited data set. So the team's out there and they're collecting new samples, soil samples. So they're going on and collecting a sample, drying it. We've purchased a portable XRF, which is an X-ray fluorescence machine, and that gives us the ability to build a geochemical data set, and we can start to pull together the geology from certain elements that we see in the geochemistry, as well as pathfinders such as your arsenic. We know that there's a lot of arsenopyrite in the system, and that can bleed onto surface, and you may have an area where you're seeing a distinct area of arsenic, so that may be a pathfinder to something else. So we're pulling at that data set as we speak. But interesting, you can see some of these dashed black lines, and they're second order structures that we're seeing in the system that we and the work that Barry's doing, he's better refining those areas as well. So we're looking for that structural complexity as well as those DMAG zones and the like. So yeah, we see these areas as gaps that we need to fill.
Yeah. And when that work is done, are these targets got the potential to be drill tested at some point this year, or are they probably more of a next year story and a bigger, because greenfield growth driver?
Yeah, well, a lot, we're very wary of having two rigs going, what it can do to your money in the bank. So we need to be very wary of that. But I see us having one drill rig continuing to drill at Irvine. And what generally happens in exploration, if you're drilling some key target areas first that you've got higher degree of confidence in, and if you're seeing positive results, what turns into what started out as a couple of scout holes can then turn into a more detailed program if you're getting success. The flip side to that is, okay, you drill, you don't see anything that warrants further work, so you then move on to the next target. So, depending on the success of the program as a whole, we'll sort of gradually move on to the best ranked target. So the team is in the process of organising our because this is a lot of this that we're talking about today is relatively new data sets and new information that we're still compiling. So the team is going to have a session together where we rank. We call it a ranking session, where we go through and we look at all the data we've got now that we've got an updated data set, and then we go through and go, okay, X, Y, and Z on this prospect, this therefore this ranks higher than this other prospect, or vice versa. So we'll go and do that ranking exercise over the coming weeks, reorder our exploration targets accordingly.
Josh,
Yeah.
I'll just add, when it comes to strategy, this is a potentially fantastically large project, right? It has the 1 million ounce potential, 16 Ks down the road from 5 million ounces, right? But we don't have $40 million in the bank and 6 or 8 rigs systematically drilling it across, even though we could with the access that we do have. What we're trying to demonstrate now by drilling these exploration targets is really the disparate targets can really deliver, as Joseph said, that discovery sense to an existing project. So we've now put our own signature on the project with our own domains and JORC resource update and interpretation of the project. So we're trying to deliver a new perspective on the exciting Irvine Gold Project, which really has the ability to drive our share price and value up absolutely significantly. And in a practical sense, where we are focused on a bit more of a drill out, and it doesn't take too much to achieve this, is up at Comstock, and that's where the infill drilling is going. And all things going well, we'll be able to turn those ounces into production ounces relatively quickly.
Yep, no, makes sense. And I've got one or two last questions, but I've noticed nothing's in on the chat. But if anyone's got any, please put them in and we'll get onto them ASAP. Probably just circling back to the main, I guess, resolution area and that ET1, that's the immediate up dip. I guess, how do you consider exploring, testing that up dip extension, looking for shallower, potentially open pit ounces, and versus testing the continuity down strike and plunge or down dip of the existing resource?
Yeah, both are things that we're considering. Obviously, if you go down plunge and down dip, you're getting some pretty deep holes in the ground, and we're very aware of chasing deep targets and what it does to our news flow. They're expensive to drill. The news flow slows right down, and it's hard to keep spinning when you a good news story when you're drilling a 800-meter hole that's going to take several months of your time. So what I think the next step would be to look at up dip extensions, nearer surface extensions, and again that'll come out in the target ranking exercise. There may be areas that we think can offer just as positive growth and news feed, but it's definitely an area that we're not forgetting about. Yeah, you can't forget about the best drill intercept we've had project to date and leave it floundering. So we are very, very aware of what we need to do there, and that's target some near surface or even just demonstrate the potential for it to grow further. So the team is looking at access there. We're fairly confident there's areas of the Long Gully Reserve that will give us a favourable drill angle. So again, you've been to, and some of the people on the call have seen the rig sitting down on that site. So there's scope to move in amongst the bush there without too much disturbance. So yeah, it's something we're definitely we'll get back to it at a later stage. We've just got some other areas now that we've opened up access along strike to the north. We've got some other key areas that we'd like to drill test and fill some of those nearer surface gaps to the north, or to the northwest, which is on that long section just to the left of screen there. Some of those key areas in that area.
Yeah, just one clarifying question before we get to some questions that have come in from the audience. When you consider the up dip extension, is that a function that the current resource shell for the resolution vein is essentially only constrained by drilling and that it's effectively not closed off, which leads you to believe that there are up dip extensions to consider?
Correct. I don't believe it's closed off. I think we're still got potential to grow that back up dip as well as down dip. Excuse me.
Yeah. Oh, very good. So we've got two questions that are coming from the audience. The first one is, what options do you have for processing the ore bodies? And I assume that's probably considering Irvine and both the Comstock pit.
Yeah, I mean, James has been talking to the guys at the Wedderburn mill for Comstock. That's the natural. It's a very similar. They process Fiddler's Creek ore at Wedderburn, and it's something that's not too dissimilar to our ore body. I mean, a little bit more sulfide content in theirs, but mineralogically, you can see that image that James is pointing to there. There's sphalerite, which is that sort of brownie coloured mineral. There's the sort of bluey, bronzy, shiny mineral, silvery coloured mineral is galena, and then obviously there's the gold. They have that mineralogy going through their mill. So that's an option if we were to look at Comstock. There's also we just spoke to the guys at Kaiser Reef. They've got the Malden mill. We were speaking to them last week. They're keen to toll treat any ore that becomes available. So yeah, that's an option as well. You've got excuse me, Ballarat and obviously Stawell's very close to our flagship, and you would think that would be a great home for Irvine ore. Obviously, we've got to get our resource up a little bit at the moment. It's probably not seen as enough to get through the mill yet, but as we keep growing the resource, I mean, it's going to be hard to ignore a whole lot of ounces in the ground to feed what will be a very hungry mill over the coming years as their ore feed runs out. So, multiple mill options that you could utilise.
And we don't have it in today's presentation, but you would have seen the tenement map that we presented before that really overlays our tenements with the number of gold mills that are in the region. As Joseph said, there's a couple of mills that are very low on feed, obviously. So there's that sort of just stating the obvious. We've got a lot of ounces and we don't have a mill. But also, as we announced in December, the guys from the Wedderburn mill are very keen on what you can see on the screen, given that it's 45 k's away from Wedderburn. And as Joseph said, it appears to be a similar type of geology there. And we are, as Joseph said, we're about to commence the met testing, and I think that'll give us a little more insight, obviously, into the immediate processing options. So it's great to be in Victoria where there is processing capacity available. We do hear from fellow peer companies in other jurisdictions like WA that it's harder and harder to get into mills these days. But with our two focus projects, we certainly have the options and the time frames in terms of getting these ore bodies processed or into production is really, as we've been saying to the market more and more recently, Comstock, it's got the existing ore body or open pit access is there. As you can see on the photo, you can see that sort of pit ramp. That's utilised today and we walked down it last week. And that's actually where the drill rig is sitting. So very, very good access into this into Comstock overall, which is fantastic. And as Joseph said, very good relationship with Parks Victoria, who manage this call it a non-rehabilitated mine site. So if I were thinking about timeframes, and I do think about it daily, this one is presenting itself as an obvious fast track solution in terms of getting something up and into production. So we talk about that sort of time frame of around 12 months, all going well. But then on the larger project, that's something a little bit. It's more greenfield in nature. We've purchased a number of properties, which really helps us. And it's a bit more of a 2 to 3 years sort of time frame, I would say, and depends on more of the de-risking activities steps that we can do by understanding the geology more, understanding what sort of long-term development options there might be there, and de-risking the surface impact. Making sure that we're working very well with our stakeholders and with the community. This one's a bit more, it's longer term, but we've got the Comstock in the meantime. The size of the prize, though, is certainly there at the Irvine Project.
Very good. I think you've touched off on the second question that related to timeframes. So between myself and the audience, I think that is all the questions for the Q&A session. So I think we'll be in a position to wrap up if there's no further comments from James or Joseph.
Yeah, just a couple of comments that I think it's a great achievement for Jozef and the geology team to really deliver a 50% increase in our total global JORC resources since we started operations in January last year. Remember, we've done all that mainly with one rig running. We had two rigs running for a few months last year. We've got two rigs running today because the asset portfolio is really taking shape now from being really exploration focused to now, as you can see, we've talked about potential production a lot today. So we look forward to bringing more news on that front in the coming months because we're very excited about how the portfolio is really taking shape into a very good coherent strategy with near-term, smaller, achievable projects, as well as huge projects like the Irvine Gold Project that we can push forward for very much long-term value creation. Thanks for everyone's participation, and any questions, please reach out to myself or Jozef or even Josh.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.